order the select board meeting of January 23rd. If you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We did have an executive session just before this meeting, the start of this meeting. There were no motions coming out of that. But I would like to change the agenda around a little bit. I'd like to have the purpose and needs statement, which is required for the grant for our salt shed, to be the first item on the agenda. So who's going to speak to this? It's going to be Peter Garso presenting it?
For the salt shed, yeah.
Salt shed, yeah.
We'll present the plans.
And so we're actually holding both the local concern meeting and the purpose and need meeting for the purposes of our V-Trans salt shed grant.
Peter, you have the floor.
All right, so what I'll do is I'll present the plans.
Okay.
The site plan, some elevations and some design drawings. And then what we'll do is we'll open it for public hearing or public comment. And then after that, you guys can get to the purpose and need statement.
Okay.
So we'll start with the plans. This is an elevation view and a rendering of both the garage and the salt shed. The garage obviously is not part of this project. No state or federal funds are going to be involved in the garage itself. This is strictly for the salt shed. And the salt shed is on the lower of the two elevations that you see up on the screen. So that's the style as it is planned to be designed right now. We'll go to the second sheet, which is floor plan and elevation of the salt shed. A more detailed, less pretty picture than the previous one, but showing the same thing. This is just more details on the salt shed itself, showing the foundation, roof structure, and the floor plan inside. You'll see that the salt shed is divided into two sections, with the salt being the larger of the two partitions, and the sand, as you're looking at the floor plan, it's going to be on the right side, which is at the rear of the site. That's for sand storage. And if we look at the site plan, again, this shows the overall project if it's located on the Brigham Road property and adjacent to where the proposed Public Works garage is to be located. So if you look at the plan, so this demarcation line right here is where salt shed project is on the right side. This is all the Public Works garage project, which we are not discussing. We're presenting tonight. So, but just in context, the salt shed, where this site would be located adjacent to the garage. On the plan, you'll see the access road from Brigham Road coming into the salt shed. You can see that we have doors on both sides. As I mentioned previously, we have the salt shed door would be on the side closer to the garage, and that's the larger of the two partitions inside. The sand shed entrance would be on the back side. We show pavement around the entire salt shed for maneuverability for the trucks to get in when they do their deliveries. And if you wanted a more detailed view of the site itself, this is the grading and utility plan, which shows the stormwater system for the entire site, the garage as well as the salt shed. We show the system for the septic area. We have municipal water coming from Brigham Road, and we have some perimeter swales that pick up the entire site and bring it to the stormwater system. And then we have some shielding, berms, and landscaping shown on this plan, which actually I can show you the landscaping plan on the next one, just to give you a little bit more view of the landscaping. That shows those berms that you saw on the grading plan. We show some landscaping on top of that, some cedar hedges. The lines that you'll see on this plan are the lighting, foot candles. You'll see the lighting around the salt shed. We have some yard lights around the perimeter of the paved area, as well as some building mounted lights. So that is the, kind of a gist of the plan for the salt shed. At this point, we can open up for comment on these plans.
What's the square footage? Is it 6,000?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So, the outside perimeter walls of the salt shed are concrete to what elevation, how high?
10 feet, I believe.
10 foot?
Yeah.
And then from the 10-foot section to the bottom of the trusses
Yep.
is what, wood?
Wood frame.
Wood framing,
Yeah.
wood trusses.
Yep.
With
Correct.
metal roof and metal siding.
Correct.
And the metal roof is what type of metal?
At this point, it's not designed. We haven't got into the specifics of the design yet.
But given the salt, would you use steel?
We'd have to
Most
look
of it's
at that.
galvanized aluminum.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah, I think steel would be too good of an idea
All right.
inside a salt shed.
No.
But, and the two, shed roofs on the left and the right-hand side of the salt shed are for or equipment storage, outside equipment,
Yep.
right? And there's how many bays on each side? 1, 2, 3, 4,
Well, those are,
5,
yeah, so
6,
those are the
7.
piers. They're not, I mean, you can sort of look at them as a bay, but we have the piers for the structure.
What's the
Hanging up
width
those
between
columns,
the
but it looks
piers?
like we have, I guess you got 7 of them there.
So what's the width between them, Peter? Oh, good Lord, that's,
Tough to say, I can figure it out here. We got,
well,
they're about 17 feet.
yeah, it's, in other words, it's wide enough to store equipment that doesn't have to be stored inside,
Right.
right? It's, and it's asphalt or concrete out there?
That's concrete.
Concrete. Building's not heated by any means, and it has, electrical, there's lighting inside the building as well as the outside.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, those are the only utilities we're bringing down.
Yeah. No water,
No.
no sewage.
No need.
Yeah. Well, just let the public know.
Okay,
so,
fair
yeah.
enough. Just like a big old barn.
Yeah, big pole barn, yeah. But
Without cows.
it's a, it doesn't look like much of a building, but it's quite a valuable asset to the town. That correct?
Alan, do you have a comment? Alan, did you have a, no, oh, sorry. Does anyone in the audience have a comment or question they'd like to make?
I'm not 100% sure, but with the final of the design, I believe there'd probably be plywood in between the metal and the trusses, so you wouldn't have to worry about the salt. I believe when we went to the Gambrel roof style that we needed the plywood for the snow load and the stability of it. I believe, don't hold me to that though.
What's the divider wall inside made out of? That divides salt from sand? Concrete.
10 feet tall. It's
10 foot?
Same, yeah.
Yeah.
Same as perimeter.
So the height to the bottom of the trusses is
I think you have the
It's
elevation.
30,
30 something.
30 feet?
30,
So you could actually raise a dump body in there on a
Yes.
12 or 14-yard truck, right?
yes, well, that's,
Tractor trailer should be able to
Right.
dump inside that. It's a little over 30 feet.
it's a little over 30 feet. The door opening's 30 feet.
That's great.
Okay, so,
I'm all set.
any questions or comments from the audience?
The only other question I can think of, we have the sliding farm gate for the door. We've had a lot of discussion on it, and what do we end up with?
think it was an
Yeah.
industrial curtain.
Yeah, we had talked about the gate instead of
Yeah,
a door,
that's-
but New York, just put in this same style, they used like a canvas sliding door, very similar to a gate, but it was canvas and it seems a little better to keep the pigeons and everything else out.
Yes.
So I believe that's what we're doing. It's not gonna be an overhead door of any sort,
No.
anything like that. But we haven't really finalized that.
But we wanted to keep people out so that they don't pull the salt or sand and get buried in it.
Exactly, yeah.
So we consider that.
The canvas curtain, the way it came together, has like a metal strip, so where it comes together, we
Okay.
can latch it or whatever.
Okay. So we got a safety problem that's taken care of. Good.
Yes.
Okay then, so, Carrie, do you wanna do the purpose or needs, or shall I?
Can do the purpose and needs
Okay.
statement. So as required by our grant, we're supposed to consider a number of different options. And as many of you know, we did start looking at this project back in early part of last year. As stated in our statement here, the purpose of the St. Albans Town Salt Shed to be located near 210 Brigham Road is fourfold. One, to provide a functional, safe, and environmentally friendly building for the town to store its winter supply of road sand and salt. Two, to resolve a long-standing concern about the possible pollution of St. Albans Bay in Lake Champlain from contamination from the existing salt shed located on Georgia Shore Road in St. Albans Bay. Number three, to locate the salt shed on the same site as the proposed new Public Works facility to allow for an efficient operation of the town's Department of Public Works. And then fourth, to relocate the existing salt shed on Georgia Shore Road in St. Albans Bay to allow redevelopment of that town-owned property in a more environmentally friendly manner. And so, well, there's a little bit longer, but basically we went on to explain that there were alternatives discussed to continue using the existing salt shed. Renovations would be required. That alternative was considered. And then we went over the need. The project need is defined by concerns and deficiencies that are identified in the following areas. And we stress this by underlining it in our report. Environmental concerns with the existing salt shed. It is currently located 100 feet from the shore of the bay of Lake Champlain. It is also the location of the current town garage and public works offices. The site is very small and contains little in the way of environmental controls. Runoff is directed towards St. Albans Bay, and any salt contamination from trucks and stockpiles likely finds its way to surrounding areas, including the lake. There are no stormwater controls currently at this site. And we also cited some site restrictions at the existing town garage property. The existing town garage property contains the salt shed, is about 2¼ acres in size. This property contains the aforementioned salt shed, office building, and equipment storage building. As the town has grown over the years, more equipment has been acquired to maintain our highways, ditches, and other infrastructure. And the current location is no longer adequate in size to meet those demands. In addition, a number of the buildings are old and in disrepair and have outlived their useful life. So in conclusion, due to the proximity of the salt shed to the lake and the severe site restrictions, the town has been planning for years to relocate the garage and salt shed. The proposed new facility at the Brigham Road location is on town-owned property, more central to all of our highways. The town maintains and is 70 acres in size, more than enough room to meet our future needs.
Any questions or comments on that?
I would like to say that for the people that are in question of whether or not we really need this, salt shed is, I would encourage them to visit the and town garage. I encourage them to visit the site that we have right now, and it'd be a little bit more you'd get what we're going through. It's not adequate anymore at all.
We have to say, over the years, we know we've had some salt contamination to 2 neighboring wells, which have been remediated. You know there's some salt leaching somewhere. So it's just not the right thing to have a salt shed on the lake. It's, that property is just too valuable for the environment and for future public use. Okay,
So on this one here, the select board should review the wording, and if you guys are comfortable with that or want to make some revisions, then we'll need you to vote and approve that.
So you need them to approve the purpose and need statement, and it was in your packets, but also then handed out.
I have a motion to that effect.
I'll make a motion that we approve the purpose and need statement for the salt shed
As presented?
as presented.
Any opposed to that? Okay, so the motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay.
All right, so the next step, what we're gonna do is we're gonna present the 2 alternatives. One alternative is to, relocate the garage on Brigham Road property next to the town garage project. And then the other alternative would be to leave it where it is and
Yeah.
deal with that one. So, what I'll do is, we're gonna go through the benefits and costs, for the relocation. And what I'll do is I'll just read through these lists that we presented, so it'll be easier for you to bring into the minutes, but I'll just read it out loud, just so it's on record. So as far as the benefits, for relocating it to Brigham Road, we'll just start and go right down the list. Number 1, the primary benefit is keeping the salt shed on the same property as the town garage to promote efficient operations of the Public Works Department. Number 2, a larger sand shed is required to serve the needs of the town. Number 3, the new building will have lower maintenance costs than the old existing building. Number 4, the new building will be designed to prevent bird intrusions into the building. Number 5, relocation of the salt shed will allow the existing property on Georgia Shore Road to be repurposed. Those are the 5 benefits. Costs, number 1, expected cost of the salt shed will not cause an increase in taxes paid to the town of St. Albans. Number 2, the cost is expected to be comparable to similar facilities around the state. And then investigating this alternative, we're gonna call this alternative 1. As far as going through this for the state process, we have to look at a number of different items, and we're gonna go through those. I'll do that for both sites. So for this site, alternative 1, the wetlands, none are present in the, based on the preliminary site investigations performed by the town. This was done previously. And where we're locating the salt shed is outside of any area of wetlands. Archaeological and historic, no impacts known. An archaeological desktop evaluation may be performed at a later stage of the project. There are no buildings on the site currently. Section 4F, properties. Section 4F of the U.S. Department of Transportation Act of 1966 prohibits the FTA and other U.S. DOT agencies from using land from publicly owned parks, recreation areas, including recreational trails, wildlife and waterfowl refuges, and public and private historic properties unless there is no feasible and prudent alternative to that use, and the action includes all possible planning to minimize harm to the property resulting from such a use. This does not apply to the Brigham Road site. Fish and wildlife habitats does not apply. Endangered, threatened species, unique natural areas. A review of the state's database does not show any on this site. Community character, aesthetics, scenic resources, areas rural and no special characteristics. Floodplains does not apply. Agricultural lands, the Brigham Road parcel was formerly pasture land. It is mapped as a prime B soil. Much of the land is still available for future agricultural use. The town is currently using the site as a salt shed. Of the salt shed as a staging and stockpile area. Land and Water Conservation Fund, 6F, does not apply. Hazardous waste sites, there are no known hazardous waste sites on the property. We're at number 11, rivers, stream, lakes, and ponds, does not apply. Social features, demographic data, not applicable. Potential impact on economic growth and development The proposed salt shed will allow the Department of Public Works to serve the public and maintain public safety as the town continues to grow. Number 14, conformance to the town and regional plan. The town of St. Albans DRB has approved the project, and the town plan outlines the town goal to move the Department of Public Works facility, and this was approved by the Regional Planning Commission, the town's plan. Need for design exception not required. Appropriate design standards will be followed on the design of the salt shed. Stormwater treatment options. A stormwater collection and treatment plan has been developed, and a state stormwater operational permit will be obtained prior to operation and construction. And then 17, permits. The town of St. Albans has issued a site plan approval for the project. No Act 250 permit is required. And since the salt shed will not contain plumbing, no water or wastewater permits are needed. The only other permits required are stormwater construction permit and a stormwater operating permit, which will be obtained prior to construction. So that's everything for alternative 1, which is the Brigham Road property.
Okay.
And then what I'll do is, just before we get to alternative 2, I'm gonna pull up a map of the existing site. So this is the existing facility on Georgia Shore Road in the bay. This is just a Google Earth street view taken from Georgia Shore Road, and this shows the garage site. And then what I'll do is pull up an aerial photo. This is the Google Earth image that shows the Public Works facility. The existing salt shed is located down here. So this would be alternative 2, would be to keep this. And we can go through those same benefits and costs outlining alternative 2. So number 1, benefits: no initial cost or minimal initial cost to maintain the existing salt shed building. Cost: number 1, continued potential pollution of Lake Champlain from site runoff. That's a cost to be considered. Existing salt shed is too small, and there's no good way to segregate the salt and sand stockpiles that the town wants to maintain. Number 4, keeping the salt shed at the Georgia Road site and moving the town garage to Brigham Road will prevent the town from repurposing the Georgia Shore property for some other use beneficial to the taxpayers. Yep. We're gonna make it. So under investigation, we'll go through those same long-winded items. Wetlands: no known wetlands present. The site's fully developed and in use. Number 2, archaeological and historic: no impacts known. Buildings are on site are not historic. And then section 4F properties also does not apply to the Georgia Road site. Fish and wildlife habitats do not apply. Endangered, threatened species, unique natural areas. A review of the state database does show a state threatened species on site, and that's adjacent to St. Albans Bay. And the category is an invertebrate animal, and this was last observed in 2017. I believe this is pretty much the entire St. Albans Bay area, so everywhere is on that bay. It's this threatened species. I don't know which it is, but it is mapped on the A&R Atlas. So I want to make note of that. Number 6, community character, aesthetics, scenic resources. The site is located on Lake Champlain in St. Albans Bay. The site is not attractive and detracts from the scenic character of the lake. The site is also not consistent with the character of the area and does not meet current zoning. Floodplains. The site is adjacent to St. Albans Bay but is slightly above the 100-year base flood elevation. Agricultural lands. The site is fully developed and does not contain agricultural lands. Land and water conservation funds do not apply. Hazardous waste sites. There are no known hazardous waste sites on the property. River, stream, lakes, and ponds. The site is located on the shore of Lake Champlain and potentially could contribute to the pollution of the lake and from salt and the activities on the property. Social features, demographic data not applicable. Potential impact on economic growth and development. The existing salt shed does not allow the Public Works Department to fully serve the public and maintain the public safety of the town as the town continues to grow due to severe site constraints. And then conformance to the town and regional plans, the town of St. Albans DRB has approved the project. It's an existing site, grandfathered site. Need for design exception, no design required, the salt shed exists on the site. Stormwater treatment options, no stormwater treatment system exists on the site. Runoff flows to Lake Champlain. Due to the fully developed nature of the site, it is not practical to treat the runoff in accordance with state standards. And then permits, the salt shed predates zoning and is grandfathered. So at this point, we can take comments on the two alternatives.
Okay. So, anyone wish to make any comment?
So if there's no comments, the select board can just have a discussion and vote on the preferred alternative.
Okay, so
I move we accept alternative one,
alternative one to relocate,
to relocate.
okay? So the motion is that we accept the alternative one to relocate to the Brigham Road property, or relocate from the lake. Any comment? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
our part is finished.
That's it for that
thank you so much.
grant, awesome.
And you know, another thing is, to the public, Alan and his crew do a good job trying to maintain all of the OSHA and OSHA regulations that it takes to run a business. And this particular location over there makes it very challenging for them to do so.
Great.
Okay.
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
So we go back to the,
Okay, so drive safely, guys, you have a trip home, right?
My trip's
Yours
shorter than
closer,
his.
right, Matt has a long one, right? Okay, again, thank you very much.
Thank you, thanks for adjusting.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you for all you've done too, Matt, we appreciate it.
Welcome.
Warrants?
Yeah, why don't we just go back to the agenda, we go to warrants. Okay. Stanley's, I'll be happy.
I have the general warrants bill. It was dated January 23rd to January 23rd for a total of 82 warrants, $157,850.48. The biggest one went to the man I just explained about salt shed, cross engineering. $75,666 was paid out there, and the other big one is our, I think it's monthly Blue Cross Blue Shield payment.
Yeah,
$14,632. Then road salt that Al uses to keep us safe and able to get home and to work and to wherever we need to go. And the next big one was AmCare. And I'm either gonna tell you about another one, even though it won't happen until July, because we need to look ahead to July and feel good about ourselves and what the weather's been. Is for the fireworks at the Bay Park. $8,800. So that's the bulk of our expenditures for this past warrant period.
so, planning to put another fireworks show on, very good.
Make a motion, Bill, to
Okay,
pass.
so it's,
did?
any question or comment on the,
Any
Stan made the
comments?
motion, yeah.
No, I have no comments, other than I
Okay.
hope it doesn't snow in July.
Right, yeah, well, that would be interesting, right? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Stan. It'd be interesting to see the fireworks with the snow, how they reflect, right?
I have a payroll and industrial park warrants. I'll start with payroll. First warrant is dated January 11, 2019 is for the amount of $16,842.36. Second warrant is dated January 18th, 2019 for the amount of $17,189.45. I'll make a motion we approve both.
Okay, any questions or comments? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carry. Thank you.
Alright,
Yeah.
industrial park warrant, it's for the amount of $2,108.87, dated January 23rd, 2019. We continue to have, seems like maintenance issues with our pumps up there, but, we're working on revising that, so I'll make a motion, we approve it.
Okay. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Brendan, I'm sorry, what was the amount?
You have $2,108.87.
Thank you.
Okay, Al, do you want to do some minutes, if you don't
Yes.
mind?
I have two minutes of two different meetings. Let me say first, they're very, very well done. Both were very complicated meetings,
Yes.
and I was amazed at the well-doneness and correctness. However, and I'm almost embarrassed to say I have two picayune points.
Of course.
I'd be disappointed if you didn't.
On page 3,
Which one?
excuse me, on the select board meeting Monday, January 14th, 2019. On page 3, the paragraph beginning with A. Vogel asked. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs up. I think you can drop the. In other words, A. Vogel asked the W. Nehan, or drop the.
Here I thought when I read this, you were giving an honorific.
And I could have. I've said it was picayune. On the second minutes of January 7th, on page 3 also, at the very top, to education, it should be to educate.
All right.
With that, I move that both minutes be approved.
Okay. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Al, for your usual Hawkeye examination.
Thank you, Al.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. So tonight we have Michael Moser and Amy Kelsey with us to speak to to review the community survey results. So if you want to come on up and take a seat in the public. Brendan, maybe you can move the table so we can get good TV shots for Amy and Michael.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would you like to be, you want this spinning chair?
All right, thank you for having us. I understand you have a full agenda and about 15 minutes for us to talk about this, so we'll try to do our best. I'm Amy Kelsey. I'm a research specialist for the Center for Rural Studies at the University of Vermont.
And I'm Michael Moser, a researcher at the center as well.
So what we were hoping to do this evening is discuss, so we provided, for those of you who weren't here or aren't aware, we provided a draft report to the select board at the end of November. I'm not quite sure when it fell in your schedule. And also asked for their feedback and for further analyses that they would like to have completed. What we plan to present here today, we're happy to take any questions that you have, but is that further analysis and to then take the questions that you have. So the focus will be on the crosstabs that we've done, sort of looking at age, education, and years of residence compared to some of these questions that you asked in the community survey to see how things broke out.
Excuse me, Amy,
Yes.
would you like us to put the presentation on the TV?
That'd be great.
Okay.
People have it also in their hands.
Right, we're gonna
Okay.
try to do that.
So, in your packet, you received a whole bunch of tables. They're hard to look at and make sense of. I have a number of charts to help illustrate this. They're also a little bit hard to look at because we're talking about a lot of categories and a lot of data all at once. So we're doing our best to help visualize and see patterns.
I'd like to start out, can you tell everybody here how many surveys were mailed out and what the
Absolutely.
response was, so
Yes.
that we get a feel for how much
Yes.
data did we generate?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm also just going to pass this around before I do that. And this is demographic information about St. Albans Town from the census. So what we're gonna do is just sort of, you can use this to compare, and there's charts on here that compare our survey results with census data around education, age, and years of residence. So I'll just pass those around. So if you wanna go ahead and advance the slides. Methodology. So we started back in June or July, speaking with the town. We worked with the town to develop the survey questionnaire. They came up with most of the questions. We helped refine those questions to make sure they weren't leading. We took the grand list and the voter registration list. We combined those so that we had all voters and all property owners in town, whether or not they were residents. We then took a random sample from that list. So we had a list of roughly 7,000 names. We took 1,600. There could be 2 individuals in the same household because we wanted individual opinions. So we sent out those 1,600 surveys. We received about 300 back to that first survey. It was a high 200s, 300s. So we decided to send another round to another sample. So excluding the people who'd already seen the survey, we selected 1,600 more names from that list, sent the survey out, collected another X many responses. I'm not sure the exact number, but in total we had 480 responses. And with a population of roughly, according to the census data, you may have some different numbers, but 6,350 people and a sample size of 480-ish individuals, we can then say that, you know, these results, we can talk about maybe some of the issues with this, but the results, we can be 95% confident that the results we have here are representative of the population within about 4%, if that makes sense to folks. So if we look at a specific result and say 51% of, you know, the people that responded felt that we should do this with stormwater, we can feel confident that somewhere between 47 and 55% of your residents agree with that. Make sense? Any questions at all about that methodology? Okay, you can go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure we got this 95% level of confidence.
Yes.
That was pretty critical to me. I was told.
Key findings, this just I pulled straight from the report that you've already seen, and I just pulled some of the findings related to the questions that you asked to look further into. So stormwater, 57%, this is the overall results, 57% of respondents expressed support, whether it was strong or, what were the 2 words we used? I'm not quite sure. Yeah, strong or very strong, I'm not quite sure. For stormwater utility, when we asked about a new town hall or renovating the town hall, those questions were really, it was hard to see a solid trend. But we'll talk more about those in a minute. And then something else we'll look further into today was the level of importance of recreation paths and your bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure plan, if I have that title correct. And there was a lot of support for that, and we'll look further into where that support is coming from. So we can go. So to start, I just wanted to paint the picture of who responded compared to what your population looks like. So it's important to note that we're going to just look at these 3. These are the 3 main demographic variables we have: age, years of residence, and education. Age, people could select and put themselves in a bin. You had to be 18 to partake. And then,
Oops, sorry.
yeah, that's fine. You can go ahead to age. We'll just look at that. So the big take home here is that 66% of the people that responded are 55 or over. So we just have to take that into consideration when we think about our results. This is the trend with mail surveys, with phone surveys. It's challenging. We did the best we could. We in fact tried providing some incentives to encourage people to participate, and we did the best we could. So this is what it looks like, but just remember that something's not popping up there, but 3% of the population is 24, or the sample is under 24. It's between 18 and 24. That's what that missing piece is. And if you look, at least for those of you, the select board members, you can see how that compares on this chart to actual population. So basically, you know, our results, it's less representative of the younger folks and more representative of the older folks than that true population numbers.
But your distribution to the people were equal?
It's all random, wasn't
It
it?
was random. So we didn't know anyone's age from your grand
Okay.
list or voter registration
It was
list.
possible you got all elderly?
That's who chooses to respond. And if you look at this chart, you'll also see that the percentage of people in town does trend towards
Yep.
an older, but we trend more that way in our survey results. If that makes sense. But no, we had no way of making sure that we sent equal amounts to each category. So, any other questions there on age? Years of residence, this tracked more closely with the census data and seems to match the population a little bit better. Less than 10 years is 1/4 of the population. 10 to 19 years is another 1/4 of the population of town. And then another 20% is 20 to 29 years, and then the remainder is people that have lived here 30 years or more. So that distribution is more consistent with what the population looks like on the ground than we had for age. And then I think the next one, were there any questions on that? Next is education. And this is, as one may expect, folks with a little bit more education seem to be the ones that are responding more to the survey. The actual population numbers for educational attainment, our survey results are less. They're skewed. They're skewed
Yes,
towards
yeah.
people that have some college degree or more. So another thing to take into consideration, also a common finding with mail surveys. Okay, so moving on, we're going to talk next about, and if I'm going too slowly or need to skip anything, you all let me know. But these are the analyses that were requested in response to the initial survey to dig into a few of the questions a little bit further. There are a number on here. Those with asterisks are the ones that we're going to talk about tonight. Those are the ones that we actually saw that there was a statistically significant association between the variables, like basically saying that age or years of residence probably impacts your response. But we don't know why. All we're measuring is actually an association. I don't think that's mine. So a couple things about those crosstabs, and then we'll go through a few charts. I chose to collapse the age categories in order to actually run the chi-square test that we used. Because there were so few people in the younger age categories, that helped. But I want to say that there are a number of ways that you could analyze the data, so just so to be transparent. So the charts will have 6 age categories, however, they were all collapsed into 3. The chi-square test that tells us if there's an association between variables is what we've used, but it doesn't tell us what that association is. It just says that there is one. So to find out what that is, you'd have to do a bit more digging, but at least we can say this is different than what would be expected if these variables were completely independent. The outcomes are different than if they were independent. In some of the charts, you'll see a very clear pattern, and in others, I think it's much more difficult to discern what that association might be. So with that, we'll go ahead. These are all stacked bar charts. The colors, I did my best. It's challenging to present this volume of data, I think, in a way that's really easy to digest. This first one, though, is fairly straightforward. We're looking at age and years of residence. and it's a pretty clear trend. I don't have a pointer either, but obviously, if you're 18, you can't have lived here for 30 years, you know, so this category is all people that have lived here 20 years or less, 24 years or less, and there's a trend going this way. So that's, a very clear trend, not unexpected. But if you're younger, you're not going to have lived here as long.
No, I just stopped.
That was not a tough one.
No. Starting easy.
Right.
The next area that folks asked for additional information on was affordable housing and how people had responded to the question about what measures should the town take to promote the development of affordable housing. We were asked to look at that by age and years of residence. I've just included age here because that was where we saw an association of some sort. But again, this trend is not as obvious to see as what we saw with years of residence and age. What I see here is in the middle. So again, we did 34 basically and under, 35 to 54, and 55 to 60. Well, it's 55 and up when we did the analysis. And what I see here is a bit of this. So this is hypothesis, brainstorming. Other people can come up with their own brainstorms. My immediate thought when I look at this is, if I'm younger, I'm a little bit more concerned about housing being affordable, perhaps. If I'm in the prime of my wage earning years, it's maybe not as on my mind so much. If I'm getting older, I'm planning for retirement, it might be on my mind some more. That's one potential way to look at this. There's others, but that's sort of what I see here. Is that
Logical.
logical?
Yeah.
Yeah, there could be other explanations, but. Next question, assuming the Department of Public Works will relocate. It sounds like it's probably gonna happen. What should be done with the current site? So clearly here, so the bottom here, this bright green is the town should sell the site. The next category is develop it for recreation. No opinion, and then the very top here is other. And then there was another question where people could say what that other idea was. Here again, I don't think it's quite as strong or obvious. It's a little bit hard to discern, but you can see it, at least if we're measuring the strength of opinion, people get a little more strong feeling about town selling it as we go this way with age. And I also see that the degree, the interest in developing for recreation, this darker green, decreases with age a bit. Overall though, there's still a pretty large percentage on both sides of this line, but the top green, develop it for recreation, the trend is that is a larger percentage overall in every age category.
I think that's pretty adequate, based on what we hear and see.
Stormwater utilities. So we're looking at education level now, not age or years of residence, and it's a very clear trend. The question, should the town engage in water quality improvement efforts through the implementation of a stormwater utility that would cost between $34 and $75 per household annually? And, strongly favor are these green categories, and they go right up with education level. So that might have been an expected response as well, but again, there is a significant association between your level of education and your opinion on that potential implementation. Should the town consider moving to a new town hall by age? This one, again, I think a little bit less discernible. What shows up for me is that with age, as age increases, people have more of an opinion. So this block here is no opinion, and it gets smaller generally as we go. People start, you've lived here longer, you've thought more about it, you've maybe spent more time in the town hall. And with age, there's a slightly stronger preference for considering a new town hall. So that's this, it's slight, especially, but if you look at the lighter green, but if you look at both, it's clearly very slight. These don't increase a lot, but those are a few things I see. Questions or other?
Oh, sorry.
And then the last four, I think, these are all related to recreation paths or by implementing the bicycle and pedestrian plan, and the trends are pretty similar. The first is rec paths by age and also by years of residence. And you'll see, the trend I see here is the strongest feeling of importance comes between 35 and 55, potentially when you have young children or are most active using those things. When you're younger, you're using them too, and you're invested in them, and it starts to tail off a little bit as you are a little bit older and perhaps not using those resources much. Again, these are ideas, and there's other ways to interpret it, but that's what we see. So this is rec paths by age. If you want to look at, go ahead, we'll have, this is by years of residence. So similar, well, we don't see as much of a curve this way, but you know, the level of importance or feeling of the level of importance is decreasing with the more years you've lived here, which obviously is also your age in that direction. So then implementing the bike and pedestrian plan, very similar results. This is by age, seeing the same sort of trend, roughly, and if we look at it by years of residence, similar, years of residence go down. Overall though, these things, you know, all these categories, this dips below 40%, but almost entirely, here we're above 60%, you know, feeling strongly about. So those are the overall numbers that were the initial report. You know, there's a very strong overall response to the importance of those two things in your survey results. So that's what I have. I don't know what questions you all might have for us.
Gives us a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It does give you a lot to think about. I think you did a very good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just a little disappointed in the participation, you know.
It's challenging.
It's challenging to get people involved, period. I
Yes.
mean,
What was the response, 480?
480. So there was good participation. It just was not distributed, perhaps,
Yeah.
across your population, you know, across the ages. Really is where you see that.
I'm a bit surprised by the divergence between the census results and the results of the survey. It's an eye opener there.
Yeah, yeah, and everything here too, I feel like I always have to remind myself that this category right here, it was like 12 people.
Yes.
And this over here is like 160. So,
Wow. So if you weighted it, it would be a whole
right,
totally
and
different
that's,
story.
you know, that's another step you could take is to
Right.
try to weight it to,
Did you have a question, Al?
Yeah, maybe waiting gets towards that answer. How would we get a better representation of all ages?
Weight the data.
yeah, there's two ways,
Weight
I
the
guess.
data.
There's weight the data, or you go and intentionally conduct another survey for non-responders.
what was the first one again?
Weight the data.
Weight the data.
Now,
For census.
What would that do?
Yeah, well, yeah,
Yes.
explain that, please.
So you would look at the data you have there, that's the census data,
Uh-huh.
and see proportionally, and you might be able to explain this process better.
You have some fancy math and, you know, some.
Well, no, we just push buttons. But really, what that does is we could apply a weight to responses from younger respondents and make that weight proportional to their proportion of
True.
all the age groups. So 12 respondents might look more like, I don't know, 60 respondents or something like that. So you would, and actually what you'd see is some of these trends just becoming a little stronger. So, but it's not terribly difficult to do. It's not an exact science, but
But it would skew things, that maybe.
it would skew them closer to the true demographic of the
Okay, just a moment.
of the population. But you know, which 12 youth in the community did you hear from? Do they represent all youth? Not very well.
We have a caller.
Bill, you
Go ahead.
do have a caller that would like to ask a question?
I don't know, do we have people
We do
calling
have
in?
one.
All right,
It's a
I was wondering
statement.
about that, okay.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead. You have the board's attention.
Hi, I'm just tuning in. I'm wondering how you chose the people to send out the survey to.
Yes, I'm happy to answer that. We combined the grand list and the voter registration list with the help of the town, and then we selected a random sample of individuals from that list. So there were 3,200 total individuals that were randomly sampled from the total population or voter and property owning lists. So it was a random sample of the population.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Since one of the motivations for this survey was for the select board to get a better sense of what the people, so we have to represent them and do what they want. And we were looking to get more clear instruction. I don't see that I got very much clear instruction.
That's why you get the big boys out to make decisions.
But if we, and I hear the problems of waiting, but just as a matter of idle curiosity, I suppose through myself, how expensive would it be to get new graphs for the weighted sample?
I don't know if we could answer that tonight very easily, but generally, probably not very expensive. You don't have to think of all of these results purely from a demographic perspective. You don't have to think of them as being what do elder folks versus younger folks in the community want. It's useful for understanding some of the nuances, but looking at the sort of what we call the univariate results, what's the overall level of support for rec trails in our community? That's something that you see the strength of that support, or the strength of no support, or the lack of support. Those are the places that I tend to like to focus my energy, is just overall, what is the community saying? Yes, we understand we're a little bit light on, hearing the youth voice in some of this, but for instance, if a trend broken out by age groups shows that, there's increasing support for, or decreasing support for recreation as you get older, you could assume then that overall, if you had more youth in the sampling, that you would have an even higher level of support for recreation in the community. So there are ways to kind of look at some of these crosstabs and just infer what the levels of support would do if you had more youth and fewer elder folks responding. But again, it's the weighting of the data is something that can happen, absolutely.
So when we get to the complication of where the new town hall should be, or the refurbished town hall, it seems to me this was pretty evenly divided, but again, it's the elderly that are making most of the determination.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, overall, you have more elders in the community than.
No, they don't look forward though. They're all gonna be dead and not paying the bills.
Speak for yourself, Al, come on.
I know I'm gonna die.
So
There'll just be
that
different
all
ones
are, right?
cycling into that role.
it
right?
does
It's
beg the
inevitable,
question,
right?
what's the policy decision that the community is looking to make? Are you seeking to think of the future generations? Are you trying to serve the current folks that live here? And different questions may have different answers to those.
Well, the thing that I'd like, more important than, the location of the new town hall, is that I'd like to get people to participate. Okay, we have, in my opinion, we have a lack of participation from our residents in this town. I mean, when you have these meetings month after month, and you see the same people sitting in the audience month after month, and then you hear in the newspapers lately that kind of got me going a little bit, is that the age of the members of the select board, we're all too old. Okay? How do we get the young people to participate? I mean, nobody comes to the meetings. Very seldom does anybody ever call in. But I think that young people should realize that they probably should be thankful that we're here. Okay? And I don't know what to do. I mean, I think we bent over backwards trying to get people to participate in these meetings and some of the decision making process that goes on. And I got to tell you, it's not only do we get it from the statistics like you did, but voter turnout as well. I mean, I just don't know what to do. And I'm not knocking anybody. I'm not knocking people in general. You know, I'm just saying we got a problem.
And it's not unique. I mean, unfortunately, it's not unique to this town, or fortunately, I don't know which way to say that, but it's
everywhere.
It's everywhere. We certainly hear that.
Being the 21-year-old selectman in the room, I'd like a chance to respond to that.
I was waiting for it. Go ahead.
At the beginning, well, I'd like to say that at the start of my 2-year term, I was pretty adamant that the town needed to have a more online presence. And for better or worse, through the last couple of chairs, we haven't seen that. We could have a
Back up a little bit. The last couple of chairs.
We have not seen the chair of the board in the last 2 years push to increase the online presence of the town to reach a younger demographic.
Oh, you don't think that we've reached out to the younger generation of this town?
Not enough, no.
Oh,
You're
I
asking
disagree
the
wholeheartedly.
room.
I think we're getting off a little off topic.
Well, you asked the room, what do we have to do? I don't know what we have to do to get younger people to participate.
Well, what we got to do? You see them out here?
Yeah. Do you think younger people spend much of their time reading, I read The Messenger. I watch Local Access. I'm a rarity in my age group.
Oh, you need to
put our meetings and our schedules on Facebook, promote through social media, and it's entirely cost effective. And for whatever reason, we've decided not to do that through the last couple of years, and I hope that changes with a new board. But that's my piece on getting younger people
Well, number
involved.
one, we don't know that we're going to have a new board. That's up to the voters. And number two, Brendan, I commend you, because of your age, for the commitment that you stepped forward to take.
I appreciate
But
that.
but I got to tell you, Brendan, you're one of few people at your age that are willing to make that obligation.
If you look at that when I came on the planning commission in 2016, the average age before my appointment was probably north of 60 years old. Now we have, oh God, all but one member is under the age of 50.
Okay.
The DRB has 2 female members under the age of 40 that weren't there in 2016. I think you're going to see more of a trend. I mean, you notice that someone filed a petition that's under the age of 50 and it's a female and it wants to represent an underserved demographic. And I think that was the point that was trying to be articulated through that article, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. We don't have a woman on this board. We don't have anybody actively raising children, even though I hope to in the next 10 years.
I don't think that's got anything to do with making you an effective member of this board.
I think it helps to have a more diverse
I think you're looking at a
legislative
board
body.
right here that's raised all their children, that knows what that is.
Let's move on somehow.
Yeah, we need to
Okay.
move on. We're over on time. We
Bob,
kind
you
of.
have a comment,
Yeah, well,
question,
talking
statement?
with people about the survey, when it went out, the first thing you did was, nobody knew about it. People don't buy the Messenger anymore, few over two. A lot of older people, a lot of other people, don't bother going online to read the town message. They used to have this in the paper, a way to get hold of the Channel 16. Now the only way you can find out what when the meeting is, keep watching everything on the channel so you can find it, because it's not advertised anymore.
Yeah, it's disappointing if they don't put the schedule in the
Most of
messenger
them,
anymore.
that I talked to, they got one. Did you get one? What was it? From the town, the survey. Is that what that was? We didn't know what the hell it was. You threw it away. Or, the other good answer you probably really like, "Oh, I didn't bother filling it out. They're gonna do what they want to anyway." So,
Well, to be
that's why
honest,
you don't get responses.
yeah, and, you know, apathy is a problem too, very difficult to overcome.
I'm just telling you, the people I talked to, that was the answers I got. Not all of them were old people, some of them were younger. They were still working, they were all retired ones. And I talked about 7 or 8 select boards, all different ones, got town reports. Drives me nuts to go out and vote, see people pick up their town report on the way out the door. It's a hell of a time to look at the town report, you just voted.
Fair enough, right.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
Get back to you
Okay.
Okay,
on your
Thank you
question.
very much.
thank you very much.
Good job.
Appreciate it, okay.
Bob, it's not too late for you to grab a piece of paper and go out there and get signatures. Jump
Right.
out there.
That's the way it is out there. And once you change the format, you just stop buying it. The more people, I think, buying the Courier right now than there is Messenger.
For
Okay,
how
we're
many
gonna
years,
get
Bob?
back on track though.
Okay,
Okay, we need to go to the impact fee
Okay, let's
ordinance.
go to the impact fee ordinance,
Sorry,
Ned.
we just,
Come on up.
before we lose members here.
Yeah, we drive everybody out, yeah.
The guy with a smile on his face.
Yeah, well, it's a guy who had to shovel his truck out of the snow when it got stuck going into his driveway. So now he's got a nice clear path through the lawn that's not blaming our DPW, it was not the DPW's fault, it was me going a tad faster than I should have when I made the turn.
Come on, you're burying yourself.
Sorry.
Okay, impact fees,
Yes,
stay on
impact
track, please.
You have the impact fee ordinance before you. We've made the edits from the other meetings that you had requested and hoping for approval and adoption.
I'll move we approve as written.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you put in all those changes and all the references to the impact fee study.
Yeah.
And I think impact fees are often tough to understand why we're doing certain things. And the study gives a very good rationale for this. Sometimes it's difficult reading, but at least you see the basis for establishing these fees and the purpose. So I suggest everybody read this. So any questions or comments about the ordinance itself today? Not, then I would move the vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Nay.
Brendan, no?
Nay.
Nay, okay. So 4 in favor, 1 against.
There is a clean copy in the blue
Okay.
folder there for your signature.
Very good. Thank you. It was a lot less painful. It was a lot better this time than the first time up, Ned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And go home and shovel your truck out.
No, it's out in the parking lot. It's,
Safe trip.
Thank you, Ned.
God willing.
Okay, now, how many more years do you have to, before we have to look at it again?
30.
5.
No, like
Before you, after you retire?
5. No, God, no.
Okay, so, Al, do you want to talk about the,
Yes.
We're running late, so you got 2 minutes.
okay,
Good luck. Good luck. Not fast.
Well,
Assembly committee that Al was formed with.
yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, well, of course, we have, Bob, you're on the committee, right?
The other gentleman too?
thanks, Bob.
No, I don't know.
No, he's not here. Scott?
Scott,
Scott's not here now.
No kidding.
you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. What do you want to do, from there?
Yeah, well, if that's okay.
Up to you, so it's fine with me.
First, I'd like to thank Bob Fairbanks and Scott Parizeau for their written remarks. Their points were well taken. The mark of governance is citizen safety. This principle or value has been Admiral Ham's and my reference in analyzing Select Board and Chief Taylor's request for a Marine patrol boat. We affirmed that the state has no law requiring municipalities to provide police services in their territorial waters. We also confirmed neither the state police nor the U.S. Coast Guard will provide police patrol services for municipalities, including St. Albans Town. The Grand Isle Sheriff's Department, which has a Marine patrol, will not provide police patrol services to the town of St. Albans. All 3 Marine services will respond to a rescue call for assistance from the town. The response time for these agencies is about an hour. As Mr. Fairbanks and Parizeau pointed out, there is no documentation indicating a recognizable need for a Marine patrol boat. 10 years ago, a study by Hank Lambert currently recognized the town was divided on a vision for the bay. Dr. Gould, a member of that study committee, did recommend a moorings managerial plan. In the intervening years, the town is improving the Bay Park as a destination for summer visitors. A new marina has been built, and there are state and local efforts to reduce the pollution in the bay. The report summarizes lake traffic. In the report, it surmises that lake traffic in the bay will increase. Given the town's new fire and rescue boat, the town can respond quickly to boating accidents, persons missing, and other types of boating, person being ill on the lake. The fire and rescue will have additional help from the VSP, Coast Guard, and Grand Isle Sheriff, available within an hour to help to locate people. Given these attributes, we came to the purpose of back to the government of public safety. In anticipation of increased traffic resulting from marine and park improvements, this report recommends preparing for the future by allocating money to establish mooring regulations and a standard operating procedures for watercraft. So my motion is to allocate $15,000 for legal expenses and charges associated with charting the town's territorial waters, to designate mooring sites and define the standard operating procedures for watercraft operating in these waters in order to secure the state's delegation of authority for establishing the town position of a harbor master. Motion.
Thank you.
So the $15,000, Al, is for the legal fees?
And also $5,000 of that 15 to hire somebody to GPS, to look at the bay in particular, and where moorings should be established for safe passage of boats and the safe operations of mooring sites. So, for example, you would limit swimming in a designated mooring area. You'd also move that mooring area away from beaches where people would swim. So it's doing 2 things. One, looking at the bay, where you want to have moorings, and that opens up a whole other sense of questions, whether it should be privately owned, but the town says where you're going to put it, or publicly owned. And that's not a debate for here and now, but that the second thing is how you want boat traffic to move in and out of the bay, and so you keep navigation quickly. The last thing I think is probably more important over the long run is that once you designate mooring spots, that gets placed on the nautical maps for the lake. So for those mariners who use charts and GPS, they can avoid coming in at nighttime, for example, where there'd be boats more than likely docked or anchored. This goes back 10 years, people have been proposing this, so this is not a new idea. And for the work that the Admiral and I did, it moved our positions away from immediate police patrol, which has not been documented, has been pointed out, and more to setting the ground rules, the ground operation to the future. It's going to take us a while to get this out, mapped out. Take us another while to get the state to approve it, and then designate the town as being responsible for overseeing how the waters are used in St. Albans Bay. But in that period of time, also thinking that the bay will be used more, mainly because of the marina and the Bay Park, where we have now going to have multiple activities during the summertime.
So here's what I did after talking to you on the phone.
Yep.
I talked to some people in Mallett's Bay.
Yep.
And I talked to some people in Shelburne.
Yep.
Okay? And this survey, per se, for moorings and everything, is, to me, now I understand it a little bit better, and I take it to be somewhat important. And the reason being is that hopefully Chuck is very successful with his marina, and I hope he is. And it's going to there's going to be more activities in the bay. There's no doubt about it. Okay, so to me, it's more like planning a development. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Here's where you can park. Here's where you can't. And having a route, a designated route per se, in and out of the bay that's safe for boaters and swimmers and everything. I think we owe that to the community to do something like this. I am not, and I believe, and I want to go on record by saying this, I'm not in favor of purchasing a police boat right now.
No.
I think this is more of an important issue than what the boat is.
And we're not recommending the boat.
Yeah. But I don't have, after talking to a couple of people, and the reason I did it is one of the guys that I work with is on a couple of boards in Shelburne, and I was talking with him about this, and I think it's a logical thing to do if we are going to if we plan on pushing this area more and more as a recreational area, especially boating.
I agree with Bruce. Everything Bruce said. I mean, I don't support a boat at this point. I'm glad it's not being recommended, but this proposal is very...
One of the questions I have is, why do we have to allocate $15,000? Why can't we say, we have an account with money in it for legal matters? Okay, why can't we just say, okay, if it's gonna cost $5,000 to chart this, take the $5,000. Work out of our legal budget on the legal fees.
Actually, it's my fault. Brendan, I'm talking with Brendan, he's also looked at the budget and he has some ideas of, I'm not asking for any more increase in taxes.
Right.
I think Brendan will address that now on how we could fund this through the existing budget.
We're not gonna increase taxes if you take it out of the legal fees.
Exactly.
Right, that's exactly what what we had talked about. I mean, you look at it now, we could expense a good portion of this under the FY19 budget, if we chose to.
I was feeling a little bullheaded about this from the beginning, the boat and everything, but logically, I think this is a logical thing to do.
I agree with that.
If we plan on growth for our bay.
Right.
And it's a big safety
I look at it as
thing.
big government taking over. You're gonna tell these people where they moor the boats now that they can't do it or they can do it, and how many they can have? Or are we gonna grandfather mooring sites?
I think that's what we approach as we go along, Stan. We don't know. They're gonna chart it and say, here's logically where they should be.
I don't think a town has the governing right to do anything in the water. Water is federal. And in the state of Vermont, you can legally put out a mooring in front of your house. You have to meet the standards. If it's out so far, you have to light whatever's hooked to it. The other thing I'd be a little afraid of as a town resident is if we're telling people where to put these moorings, and are we responsible when someone hits them? Are they gonna come back on the town and say, well, you approved that mooring to be there?
We're not really going into those details right now, though, we're just talking about
Yeah, but I
theory.
think,
No, I know.
on that hand, Alan, I think that designated areas is what we're talking about.
What I'm saying, I don't think legally you can do it in the water.
I don't believe that, Bruce. I believe he's talking about the whole bay.
Yeah, but if you go to the laws, it's the Agency of Natural Resources that has that ability, and they designate that authority to the town by law. So we do have, if we're designated, we do have the ability to regulate where moorings can be. It's the discussion, I think, as Stan raises, where they're already existing, that will be addressed by a group that the select board or the select board itself thinks through the policy, as it thinks through the policy. So that's down the line, though. At this point, I'm just looking for ways to move forward.
Right, but you go online and you look at Shelburne, they have a harbor master, but it's controlled by the town. It's not the whole Shelburne Bay, it's a specific location. Here, what Al was talking about is the whole bay. Mark moorings out, and what Alan just said, you know, you're gonna be telling people they can do it or they can't do it, or how many moorings they could have, and that's too much infringement on persons' rights,
I
as far
think
as I'm
we're-
concerned.
I think we're going down the road a little bit too far. I think we're talking about doing a survey.
Well, then let's
And
specify.
then, Stan, we can't do anything without the voters' approval, so it's gotta be approved by the voters.
But you can spend 15,000 without her approval.
Well, I think that, Stan, I think that you and I normally agree on most things, but I think that this is very beneficial for the bay. I really do. It's just good planning.
Bob, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, well, you mentioned I was on the committee, but that was in name only. Because in the select board meeting I volunteered at, the only meeting I was invited to was 52 days later. And that was to find out what Admiral Ham decided on. We were not charged with looking at moorings, harbor master, anything else. All we were charged with was looking at the boat. The first message I got from Al, I went through the first part of the 63 pages that was attached. There was 40 some odd more after that in the second part. Maybe this much of it had to do with the boat. It was the same information we got at the meeting. As far as the harbor master, moorings, like you said, it's always been a policy, you can put a boat in front of your house, so far out. You can put a raft to swim off, sunbathe on, so far from your house. But state police is public safety. When you register that boat, you register it with public safety, not the Agency of Natural Resources. The state police do patrol out here, and they survey the boats, they check for safety equipment, registrations, all that stuff. And they're out here regularly. They have been since I was a teenager back in the 60s. So that's nothing new. Now, we're gonna establish mooring sites. Okay, that's great. I know none of you live on the lake shore. But I don't know, maybe he can answer the question, what's a foot of lakeshore property worth now?
I have no idea.
Last time I saw one, it was a little over $2,000 for a 12-inch ruler. If you're paying that on your lakeshore property, you want somebody parking 6 or 7 boats in front of your house that you don't know? And when you get all this done, where's all these people coming down to have all these moorings go park? And then you throw in the other one. Part of the bay is owned by Georgia. You're gonna control that too. As far as the boat goes, we don't need it. You've got 2 boats on Burton Island. You're gonna fire a boat down here. Most of the issues that happen taken care of by people that are in the area. Like we talked about, the last drowning in this area, open water drowning, was 30 some odd years ago. It was our neighbor over here,
Yeah, within the last 20, but anyway.
30. My
Okay.
son was 15 years old, and
Okay.
he's gonna be 49 this year.
The issue of the boat is off the table at the moment.
Well, that's what we were charged with, that's what this is supposed to be.
I understand that, so it's circling
Nothing
around
to
a
do
little
with
bit,
mooring.
yeah, okay. And I have to say, 10 or 15 years ago, I started to look at a mooring plan for the bay, started to gather information and data, and looking at Newport as a possible example of how to do something. And I still think it's worthwhile to take a look as to what could be done, what might be done, and what's practical, to ensure that we don't have chaotic operations within the bay, and one of the critical issues in my mind is how to protect people's property rights.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, on the other hand, not to have somebody load up a bunch of hooks in front of somebody's house. So I think it's worthwhile to really take a good hard look at what's needed, what has to be done to get there, and then come back with a complete report. There's a lot of legal issues, a lot of practical issues. And if you look at a mooring, putting in these moorings are very expensive. Certain moorings are really expensive. So it's not an easy, cheap thing to do. But I think in the interest of public safety and a rational approach to the bay, I think we should look at it.
I'm worried about the use of the bay because, let's face it, when my parents moved down to the point, halfway point, in 1958, Gould Sussman walked up and down the road, collecting money to clean up the bay.
That's right, the old Bay Association, I know that, right?
We had green water for about 2 weeks in the summer. You could swim from the dock to the island, because they used to have that race in what was originally Bay
Yep.
every year. Didn't have weeds. The more they cleaned it up, the worse it's gotten. Now it's terrible.
Kind of a contradiction in
Now all you
terms.
could do to paddle a kayak out through the bay.
So we need to move on, I think.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
so the bottom line is this, the boating population out there is gonna grow. We allowed a marina to come in, chances are it's gonna grow. The only thing I wanna do is I'm looking at safety.
Right.
Okay? I want it to be safe out there for people. And like I said, I just don't think that the survey is the wrong thing to do. Might be the right thing to do.
Okay, I don't think there's a need to put additional funding in the budget. I think there's plenty of funding available in the budget to handle this thing. The only thing I would suggest is that if we have we should have a committee that's large enough, that's inclusive, and, to get a reasonable proposal to the board. And there's a lot of legal stuff that's gonna have to be looked at, what the authorities are and what has to be done to ensure that we can do it if we want to do it.
Right. And people with boating experience that understand charts and charting and all the
Yeah,
rules
whatever,
of
yeah,
the
okay,
lake.
yeah.
I'm not a boater, so,
Okay.
but I have learned how much I don't know.
Yeah, that's
The
two
board,
of us.
whatever committee has to be appointed by this board.
Yeah.
It's not
What do
always
you mean?
been held true in the past.
You're right there in my sights, Bob, come on.
We can have somebody that lives outside the community as long as they get approved by this board.
I'm done.
The police committee, the resolution drafted in 2013, must be a citizen of St. Albans Town.
Yeah, well,
You can look it up and
yeah, we should,
That part's true. I thought what you were appointing was a steering committee to look at this other proposal, so. I
well, it
guess you
was
should-
both, and it was driven from
but
the.
even so,
It was,
if
but it
we have
was a
people
new-
looking at things for the town, we should know who's looking at what for us.
Right.
Absolutely, I'm not arguing that
So
point, I'm just trying to
maybe I'd ask,
clarify it.
Al to put together a group of,
Yeah.
I don't know how many people, make a proposed suggestion to the to the board to have a.
Well, we have two responses, and we had two other people who have not responded, and then the Admiral and I had wrote
Well, just
this
come
report.
with the whole group, and then we'll
But-
look at it. Okay?
Bill, those people have to be,
Whatever the,
Residents.
whatever the.
we have to appoint him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, come in
Now, which group are we talking about?
to study this issue.
The,
You know, a plan for the development of the bay, the mooring plan, whatever you wanna call it. Not the current steering committee, this is something.
not the current
I
police
don't think
advisory.
he's looking for committee, he's looking for for us to approve the $15,000 so he can do the study.
But he's gonna have people working with him on it, and those people should come, we should make that proposal to us.
Oh, they gotta be
Well,
appointed by the board.
And this is what I'm saying.
Yep.
That's what Stan just said.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. They gotta be, they don't have to be a citizen of the community.
Okay.
The only ones that have to be is the police advisory committee.
Okay.
It's written out
But if
that
we
way.
have some,
This is not a police advisory issue.
no, we understand it's not.
No, it's another
No,
one.
no, but you started there. That's where
Okay,
this whole
anyway.
thing started, Al. The police boat,
Okay.
that's where it started.
Okay. So to move it along, Al, it's incumbent upon you to get together a group that would help come up with a proposal to advise the board. Let the board know who you have volunteered or chain ganged or press ganged into this committee, and then get the blessing to go with that group.
To do
Okay?
what? To do what?
To do your study.
You gotta hire
The
somebody.
mooring study.
We've got to hire people.
What?
Well, first, I think what they're saying is formalize the committee.
What do you mean you're
then
hiring people?
Begin looking into it.
$5,000.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't,
Okay, listen. You requested $15,000 to do this. So and I think the sense that the majority of the board is saying it's not a bad idea. Okay? So why don't we just approve the first request? But I would like to make a motion to approve it, but I'd like to see the money come from the existing legal
wherever, somewhere in the budget.
budget that we have right now instead of allocating extra money. Okay?
Yeah, I'm just trying to reserve 15,000. I don't care where it
Okay.
comes from.
That's right.
Okay.
There's money in the budget somewhere.
But I
All right.
wanna, before we spend a dime, I wanna know what we're gonna do with it.
I agree with that.
Right.
Let's have a plan how we're gonna attack something
And who's gonna do it?
and who is
Let's
gonna
get
be
this
part
done.
of it.
Okay, we got it.
And
Okay,
when-
Al?
So I made a
I'll put it
motion.
up. I'm willing to try to find a number of citizens that are willing to work on this. I myself, I'm not sure that I want to continue as
That's
the
up to
leader.
you. Okay.
But I will do the first part to try to find some people.
Oh, you don't want to continue because of why? Because of what?
Well, for one, I'm not a boater, and I don't own property on the lake.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I think you need people with greater insight than I have on all the technical issues of looking at how you manage movement of watercraft or vessels in the lake.
Well, whenever it's come to the bay and subjects in the bay, we've always had a fairly decent turnout with people.
Yeah, I don't think
So
it'll be too
I don't think that's out of the question. But let's get through part one first.
Okay.
Okay?
Bruce, before I spend a dime, I wanna know what we're gonna do. And so far.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
If we're gonna have the whole bay or marina and the harbor master. So,
I'm
let's not saying another word until
I'm
you
not
guys come
saying,
back.
I'm not saying we're gonna hire a hire a harbor master with the money that we're allocating.
You can't do
All
it.
I'm agreeing to do is authorize the study.
Right. See what you need to do.
And you're the guy that says, study, 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 that's all we
That's
do
right.
is study.
That's right.
You're
but
the guy.
This is not a real expensive study, and
No,
I
that
think
is.
it's an important one.
All right, let's go on.
Okay, so, I don't think there's any need to vote on anything.
One more to put on the shelf.
No, it's up, I think it's incumbent on Al to take it forward, since he's proposed it. You're welcome, Al, thank you.
Okay, so we're not gonna vote on it?
I don't think we need to. It's up
No,
to
we
Al
don't need
to,
to. We got the money, we got everything.
come up with a suggestion, just the people he's gonna propose to put on it.
Do we have consensus by the board
For what?
To what?
to spend the money.
We're not spending the money till we know how to spend it. The money, we've already got it for,
Authorizing Al to put together a proposal.
And that's it.
that's it.
Okay.
Okay, and I don't mean that to kick the can down the road. I mean, it's.
That's what you did, though. Let's make it clear to the point, it is kicking the can down the road.
Well,
Call it what you like, but that's what we're going to do.
Sometimes these meetings
all
get
right.
disappointing. I don't know.
So let's,
I'd like
you
to
know,
move on.
if it's inconclusive, let's just move right on. Okay, fiscal year budget, nothing's changed since we've had before, from what we've had.
That is correct. The drafts in front of you are the drafts we discussed at the January 14th meeting. Did not change anything. You have in front of you the final budget. Trying to remember what number that was.
Now, let me make sure I'm looking at the same thing. This is the data today.
Yes, and so it's on revenues, it's draft 2. I wrote in red on the top, and expenses, it's draft 5.
Correct.
And those numbers are forwarded to the town warning, which we can discuss next if you want.
Okay.
But no, there were no changes made after that. These are the ones that include.
So we're just saying, we just have to adopt the budget?
Correct.
All right.
Accept those as a proposed budget, and then we can move to the warning.
So we'll adopt the budget for the purposes of the warning. Everybody agree to that?
Yep.
Brendan, shaking your head wise, not wisely. Al?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a copy of the warning?
I do,
Jen?
so can you just make a motion to then accept the revenue and expense
We
budget?
just did, and it was approved.
I just, I think they were shaking their heads after, so it was
Okay.
nonverbal. Jen just didn't hear it. Yes, I have drafts of the final, well, it's not the final, because you guys are gonna work on it, but this one that says final draft on it is the one that's, yeah, I'll make sure I have 5 copies. And I will briefly go over the different questions on the warning. This one's been slightly revised to include the question about DPW.
Right.
That's the only question that remains that we haven't completed. Stan,
Dan.
could you just pass that forward, please? So the town warning is something we have to do at this point to ask the
Try.
taxpayers for certain questions. Do you want me to wait for Bill to come back, or do you want me to
That
start?
might be a good idea, so you don't have to repeat yourself.
Oh, he knows what the first.
Go ahead then.
He helped me build it, so.
Go ahead, Carrie.
So Article 1 is the election of officers. So this year, we're voting on select person for 3 years, select person for 2 years, a lister for 3 years, first constable for 1, grand juror for a term of 1 year, town agent for a term of 1 year, and a library trustee for a term of 3 years. It's kind of self-explanatory, so, and I think those, well, I'll leave that alone. Article 2 is our budget, the one we just referenced. Shall the legal voters of the town of St. Albans authorize the select board to spend an estimated $4,594,511 for town general expenses, of which $3,822,574 is to be raised by taxes. I'm just going over the articles.
Yep, sure.
These are kind of straightforward so far. The third one is something that we change a little bit year to year, but is the question where we ask taxpayers to use up to a certain amount of.
It was last year to raise my taxes.
No, but this is,
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just didn't know if you had a question. So Article 3 asks to use some of our general fund or some of the money that isn't spent at the end of the year to reduce our taxes in the subsequent year. So the question is, shall the voters authorize the select board to use up to $200,000 of prior year fund balance to reduce our taxes for fiscal year 2020? Article 4 is a request to spend up to $130,000 to buy a new plow truck for the Department of Public Works using previously collected Department of Public Works reserve funds. Fairly straightforward. Most people, when they vote, like to see that previously collected funds, which means it's money in a savings account meant for this purpose. I'll keep going, all right. Article 5 is a new one this year. This is our Department of Public Works question. And I think there'll be a little discussion on exactly what number we put in here, but shall the legal voters authorize the select board to spend up to X to construct a Department of Public Works garage and salt shed? And this is the important part, I think, for many of us, using previously collected, and there's a variety of funds, so excuse this, it's a long sentence. Local option tax funds, capital project, capital equipment, highway salvage, impact fees, and state grant funds. And to authorize the select board to utilize the local option taxes to reimburse the general fund for previously spent Department of Public Works pre-construction costs. Do you want to comment on that, or do you want me to keep going?
Oh, that's good.
That's good.
Okay. Bill worked on the last sentence a little bit, and I think it explains what we're trying to do pretty well.
Yes.
Article 6 is one I'd like to explain a little bit, but I'll read the question first. Will the legal voters authorize to the elimination of the office of lister in accordance with 17 VSA and replace it with professionally qualified assessor who shall have the same powers, discharge the same duties, proceed and discharge thereof in the same manner? And I'm sorry, but that has to be legal. We've gotten that approved by some lawyers. And the intent here is not to, there should be no personnel change, but we are currently operating in this manner in the town. We don't actually have our elected lister board do day-to-day operations. We have an assessor, and we have an assistant to the assessor who do most of the grand list maintenance, which is where we get our taxes and where we get our revenue. And many towns are transitioning to this as that office becomes the requirement for the person who holds that office, are very technical and much more advanced than it was even 10 years ago. So we're asking the taxpayers to allow us to do this formally instead of continuing in the informal manner that we're doing right now. Did that explain it? Short and sweet, hopefully. I think tonight was short. Article 7. Shall the voters authorize the select board to spend up to $796,000 to purchase a new Quint ladder truck for the fire department using previously collected fire department reserve funds? And the last one, shall the legal voters authorize the select board to contribute $15,000 per year to the St. Albans Museum and Historical Society for a period of 5 years? And that would be our town warning, absent any changes. There's a comma listed in between highway salvage and impact fees.
There should be a comma between highway salvage and impact fee.
There's one.
There is one? I must have already corrected it.
Yep.
Okay,
It's
so
not
it's
in your
not on this one.
Probably not in
Okay,
that copy,
right.
yep.
Yeah.
And the other question I really have is pre-construction, should that be hyphenated or not? Michael, you're our.
I feel like it should be.
You're right. I don't know. Question.
Anyone?
I would put it.
I
I
would.
would, yeah.
Yeah. let's
World
do
won't
that.
end if we don't have it there, but I just wonder.
Okay.
And the amount that Michael, we just talked to Michael, that Matt was talking about
Yeah.
earlier is 3.8.
Yo, put it right in. Yeah, it's 3.8. Let's see.
That's what I had from my notes.
Excuse me.
And if there's any other typos or word suggestions or deletions, now's the time to do it because we do have to warn this tomorrow.
3,844,000. That's the number I have.
That is correct, that's what I have as well.
Okay.
Come on, Al, how's it look?
What?
Is that the number, is that
I
the
read it. I can't see it.
3?
384.
3844,000.
Yes. And so we will be having a meeting,
There's a question.
oh, sir,
Yeah,
oh, what, I don't know, right?
could you read the last one again, reference to the Historical Society, the article?
We have to answer.
Article 8.
No, I'm only kidding.
You
Of
want me to-
course, yes, I will read it again, I'm sorry, I'm just giving you a hard time. I don't know why. Shall the legal voters authorize the select board to contribute $15,000 per year to the St. Albans Museum and Historical Society for a period of 5 years?
Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, the Historical Society is gonna do some outreach. I don't know if any of you wanna speak to that at this point.
No.
Okay.
Well, I'll also say the city has already agreed to do it. And my feeling is that we're an equal member of the entire community, and we should carry our fair share since we all benefit from the museum. And the museum goes back before the city existed, when it was just the town and the village as a subdivision of the town. And may I remind people that that goes back not only to revolutionary times, but also to the Civil War, and then through the various wars that the people of the community of St. Albans have participated in. So I think we have an obligation to protect those memories and that history.
So Jen's gonna have to print a revised copy of that, obviously without the word draft on it. The only change I have was adding the comma, adding a hyphen to pre-construction, and adding the amount on Article 5.
Right.
Do you want me to unfold the budget amounts?
Yes. We don't usually do that.
Right.
Carrie, while the messenger is here,
Yes.
I'd like you to point out on Article 2, the amount to be raised by taxes is how much less than last year?
$10,000.
$10,034.
To be exact, yes, sir. That is correct.
So
You
we ought to
can quote
be-
us on that.
That's pretty close to being absolutely level funded.
We're very proud.
Some of us are very proud, not all of us.
Well, we
It wa-
tried,
Al's a liberal, he wanted to spend more.
It wasn't.
Let me tell
easy.
you why I wanted to spend more. Because I believe this community has to have a future. And I'm tired of not wanting to look to the future, to plan for the children who live here. It is incumbent upon us to do what our fathers did and mothers did for us. And that is make a better community that we inherited. We should pass something on to the next generation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay,
so we're
are
gonna,
we all in favor of this?
we will need a motion for that warning, yes.
I
And
have a
Jen will-
motion to approve the warning as we've updated it.
So moved.
Okay. Any comment? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
So we'll follow that up with, we will have a meeting, and go over these articles again. We plan to have one on the DPW project, which I'll go over when I go to the town manager's report, but
On the
on
4th.
February 4th, and again on March 4th. We're hoping to also have a special one, and we'll let you know when that is, when we have a special meeting on the DPW project alone. But if anyone has questions, obviously they can call me.
When does Anna need the sign to put into the annual report?
You're gonna need to sign it today, and she will attest to that, and we'll send it tomorrow. It needs to be
All right,
sent.
so you're gonna print out a clean,
She is
Yeah,
right
we're all
now.
good?
okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
She's gotta go upstairs to get it.
Sure.
Take a bit.
Okay.
Motivated to go home, so I'm sure it won't take long.
Now, it's-
Just some more.
pardon me? Okay,
That's it on that one, I think. With more to follow, please look at our website, Facebook. We'll update it when we have public meetings on that. So the town manager report, I'll be brief. I'm gonna start with a PSA, a public service announcement, that I would implore those that live on public streets in the town to refrain from parking in the public, on the public street. Caused quite a problem during our last storm, when on 3 different roads, people were parked in our public street, and, you know, it's really tough to get through our plow route in 2 hours, and it was almost impossible to get to a couple roads. So it creates a hazard, and we can't always come back. You know, so people are like, well, just come back. Well, we can't come back. We have a plow route that takes 2.5 hours, and it wastes a lot of material and time to go back and do that. So if you're in the middle of a storm, refrain from parking in the public.
Keep off the traveled way.
Shouldn't there be a notice that we put out to the public?
We are gonna do that, actually.
There was one in the paper today. Yes.
And it actually cites our traffic ordinance. It's basically our own version of a winter parking ban.
Good.
That cites it in our ordinance, which is the local law that
Yeah.
we can enforce. We
But
put it on
I hear
Facebook.
those a lot on 98.9 on the radio station.
Jen, no.
Is there something else?
No, just a correction here.
Okay.
The way this thing is written, there isn't enough money in the world to pay for Article 5.
Oh, no.
No, it's-
Decimal?
No, you have 3,844,000 million.
Oh, whoops.
So, you know,
Woo, wait.
the million has to come
Rolling
out.
We just voted to approve it.
The way
We approved the 844, right? We approved the
people-
draft.
so
Now, sorry.
We're gonna list it like we do all the other money. We're not gonna put the word million in there.
Right.
Yeah, right. All right, I needed my steps anyways.
Yep. All right, so that was just my public service, and that would
Thank
help us
you.
out a lot.
Yeah, that's important, right?
It is, because we'll probably get more snow. So on the relocation project, we just spent a good deal of time today talking about it, but the short version for people to understand is we did recently get bids in. We got them on January 11th, and we have awarded the bid to Connor Contracting, is also known as a local contractor.
Still subject to contract.
Bill, subject to
Order
an
approval.
acceptable contract
Yeah,
being
and
reached.
and
Right.
the whole
We
thing
expect-
obviously is subject to voter approval.
We expect we'll be able to do that. And we will update people as needed. We are meeting on St. Albans today, Bill, Alan, and I, to go over this project in a little more detail. Alan and Bill and I met with Channel 15, and I got a link today, late in the afternoon, of the interview explaining the details of the project. And Channel 15 also did a short walkthrough of the garage. Are also gonna meet with Michael to answer some more questions for the messenger, so they're helping us out as well. We just want people to understand the need, and are happy to explain what we're proposing to replace that existing facility. We went over on the agenda, the salt shed in great detail. I'm not gonna touch that again. So I'll move on to Bay Day. Many people started asking us. I know Alan's been getting phone calls. Bay Day this year is Saturday, July 6th. So if you have any questions, call Alan or I about reserving spots. The last thing on here has to do with the Historic Preservation Grant. We did receive a grant with the help of Joe Lino, who's on the statewide grant selection committee, to do some more work at our town Bay Park to help restore that stone house. So we're currently working with a vendor to repair windows and some of the glass and steel doors. This is gonna be to do some other work in addition to it, because there's a few bidding components we have to comply with on that. But that's good news, so it's another $20,000 towards preserving our stone house. And that's it for town manager report.
Hey, speaking of the stone house, did we ever find somebody to do the glass work?
Yeah, I've got all the bids in. I'm just gonna meet with them again one more time, and then, that process will start over the winter. It's a lengthy process. I'm gonna take the windows out, strip them down, refix them, and get it reinstalled, so. But, I mean, a lot of vendors, they really don't wanna do that kind of work.
Oh, I know, yeah.
So
Hard
we
to
went
find.
through several vendors trying to get bids. Some vendors took up to 2 months just to get me a bid. So it's been a lengthy process, but we got some good candidates, and we'll get it started.
Good. Sound like you're gonna need some NyQuil tonight.
A couple bottles maybe.
So we're at public comment.
I've got
Are you
nothing to
Miss
say.
Erica? Who
She
is Miss
is.
Erica?
She's a-
Okay, come on up front, Erica. And what's your last name?
Marks, M-A-R-K-S.
A-R-K-S,
You want me to
okay.
sit here?
Please.
I'm gonna be really quick. I'm gonna get you out of here.
You wanna go home? Okay.
Well, it's really, really simple.
So there's a change happening in St. Albans with the Meals on Wheels program. So I wanted to come personally and tell you about that so that you know what's going on. And then I have an ask, but not for money. I don't want money. I just want you to help me spread the word. So I put together just a little bit of statistics about the services that AgeWell provides here in St. Albans, because I thought it's important for you to know that. So in the last year here in St. Albans, we had 628 calls from St. Albans residents to our helpline. We delivered 12,634 meals. We had 3,194 congregate meals where people could come and eat together. We had our care and service coordinators, our case managers, just another fancy word for that, dedicated 1,965 hours of care to residents here in St. Albans and 157 hours of options counseling. So we provide a lot of support to those folks who are 60 or older who are struggling to maintain their independence for a variety of reasons. What we know here in Vermont is that 1 in 4 seniors, defined by anyone that's 60 or older, so that's many of us in this room, are living alone, and 1 in 5 seniors is food insufficient. In other words, they don't have enough food to eat. So the Meals on Wheels program, we've always partnered with the Franklin County Community Center for the last 24 years, and they've let us know that they no longer want to manage the Meals on Wheels program, so we're going to be taking over the management of it. We've partnered with the Church of the Rock. They're going to be the new place where the meals get dropped off, and the volunteers will go there and pick up the meals and deliver them exactly the way they've been doing. It's just a change in location. But it means that we have to recruit Meals on Wheels volunteers to help us move those meals. Because some of the Meals on Wheels volunteers that have been working with the Franklin County Senior Center all these years are themselves wanting to retire from having that weekly obligation, and they're seeing this as, and this happens anytime there's a big change like this, it's their opportunity without hurting anybody's feelings to say, okay, since it's not going to be here anymore, I'm going to retire from volunteering. So we're looking to find 20 new volunteers here in St. Albans that are willing to deliver meals to residents here in St. Albans. So I'm just here to tell you about that and to say that we would love your help in getting the word out. And I have these lovely flyers, and Carrie has the flyers.
They have them, actually.
But they don't have the flyers,
Yes,
right?
correct.
Just, all I'm asking is, when you talk to people, can you tell them, we need Meals on Wheels drivers here in St. Albans, call Erica. And if you would take these and just post them up at your church, at the post office, at the grocery store, wherever it is you stop next, if you would put one of these flyers up, that's my ask, to help us make sure that we have a seamless transition and nobody goes without food, because that, we won't let that happen. So that's it for me.
Thank you very much.
And I'm gonna leave the flyers here and carry whatever they don't take, you can grab.
I will.
And then for the select board, I brought our annual impact report so you can see the impact we're having. But we love St. Albans, and we're hoping to have even a greater presence in St. Albans, and I certainly love spending time in St. Albans, so you'll see and hear more from us. And that's it.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
Are you changing the routes?
Nope. No. The only thing that will change is the starting point will be the Church of the Rock instead of.
Where are we getting the meals from now? again? Rutland or somewhere?
Yep, the meals come from the kitchen in Rutland. They get brought up here every day. Yep.
Okay.
This is organizational.
Yeah, I do.
Age Well, you said is a former organization within the CC,
We used to be CVAA. We changed our
Champlain Valley
name.
Area on Aging?
Yes, because we serve from the Rutland border to the Canadian border. We're all of Addison, Chittenden, Franklin, and Grand Isle. So calling ourselves Champlain Valley Agency on Aging made no sense at all. So we changed our name to Age Well.
Are you a separate corporation or are you part of the Champlain Valley?
Nope, we're not part of the Champlain Valley. We're one of the 5 area agencies on aging in the state of Vermont.
What is the supervising agency or,
Dale, Department of Aging and Independent Living.
okay.
Yeah, we answer to them. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have they completely discontinued the congregate meal program?
No, oh no, that's the other thing. One of the things that the Franklin County Senior Center is gonna do is Dennis is gonna be cooking again, which makes Dennis happy. They're gonna be doing some community meals there the way they always have.
Right.
But now we're also gonna have, every Monday, starting March 4th, we're also gonna have an additional community meal at the Church of the Rock as well. So we're gonna have more community meals rather than less community meals,
Right.
which is very important to us. We want to increase the opportunities for people to get food and socialize. Great question. Anything else that I can answer? I know you all want to go home.
No, we keep here and spin our wheels for another hour or two.
All right, well, if you folks who are sitting in the audience would at least each take one of those and hang them up for us, we'd be forever grateful. And I'm gonna get out of your hair.
Thank you very much.
Karen.
Thank you.
Hey, Erica, thank you very much. Safe home.
So you didn't want one.
Well, I will take that and put it in at the office. Who am I saying this came from?
I wrote my name on that.
Oh, perfect.
Just in case you have to leave.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
1 in 5 seniors say they're food deficient.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, you're a saint for delivering those meals.
Oh.
Who here delivers Meals on Wheels?
Yeah, I do.
Ah, yay, Bill. Thank you.
That's a real gut puncher.
I don't know if it's sufficient enough to get him into heaven though.
1 in 5.
No, I'm surprised it's so high.
Work in the church,
You didn't have anything, Aaron? Okay. So, going to schedule. On our schedule printed, it says we're meeting on the 18th. That's a holiday. I was wondering if you'd prefer to meet, so our next meetings are February 4th, which is a Monday. But would you prefer to meet on 2/20, Wednesday?
It's the holiday.
The holiday's President's Day.
President's Day.
Or 2/19, which is a Tuesday.
Are you off that day?
We are.
It's a holiday for some of them. Some of us.
Some of us.
As long as it's not supporting Reagan, I can go along with it.
With that?
As long as it's not honoring Reagan, I can go, I'm not Reagan,
What's
Trump.
wrong with Reagan? Come on.
Trump, I can go along with it.
We can't
You
qualify.
don't want to choke on a phone. Al.
So is it Tuesday or Wednesday would be your meeting night? Doesn't matter?
Wednesday be better for me.
Okay.
I'll go along with the crowd.
Wednesday, the 20th? So our meetings in February are gonna be the 4th and the 20th.
Would it be worth having a special meeting next week to talk about how we want to disseminate information to the public regarding the Department of Public Works proposal?
We already had it in our packet here, didn't we, that what these people were going to do to talk about
I
it.
did talk about what we were gonna do. On top of that, we haven't decided exactly what we're gonna do as far as mailings or posters.
Brendan put
Well,
forth
we
a
better get on
proposal.
the stick. It's gonna happen soon.
But Brendan put forth a proposal.
I did, but we've been here long enough.
What was the proposal? Come on, run it by us quick.
Well, it's
I know I got a
several
copy,
different-
but
I left a copy on everybody's desk. There's
Right, yeah, this is what he did. This.
yeah, I got it.
actually don't have a copy here.
It's a proposal roughly to do some Facebook posts, some messenger articles, a couple meetings, one special meeting.
Well, we had taken a look at, you know, what can we do as cost effectively as possible to give as much people as much information as we can, and that included two different types of mailings. One boosted Facebook post a week. We wanted to have a 2-hour informational meeting at the current Department of Public Works on the 21st and invite Matt Young.
What day is the
Be a good one to
21st?
have on board.
Oh, Matt, okay, yeah.
But I think it'd be
21st
worth
of
having a
February?
meeting just to flush
Yeah.
it
I
out.
said the
Even if it only
20th
takes
for
an
our
hour.
meeting.
Well, he has it
I
written
don't
down
care.
here, the 21st.
Oh, that's
Here's
a,
your chance to show me
That's
how
a
social
Thursday?
media really works. So.
I'd love to, you're gonna love
Yeah.
it. But, yeah, I think it could be a good use of an hour,
Okay.
if it's up to Bill.
Well, we need to do all we can do to get the word out so that we can get this DPW passed.
It would be nice to have something right in the town clerk's office because we have taxes due on February.
That's right.
There you go,
That's right
yeah.
in that list.
It's in here, so
we'd like to get the fact sheet or the cell sheet, as you call
If you're
it.
good with that schedule, we could sit down next week just to go over the content. All I've laid out is when we should do certain things by. I haven't I thought we should all sit down and come up with what exactly we want to talk about together. But I'm open
Alan.
next week, whenever works.
So on that list, there was an idea of posters. I talked about, I did have a, get that down through,
We don't wanna touch it.
just a suggestion. But I also called the town school and they gave me permission if we wanted to put a banner or whatever on the front. I mean, we have a lot of town residents dropping kids off at the SATEC. I mean, we do have the sign out front, we have the sign at the job site. It's a good way to spread the word. I don't know if you want a banner or if you want a sign similar. They suggested banners because that's what the fire department usually does. And
A lot of traffic there.
I
That's
gotta
a
tell
good
you,
way
when
to-
we do put up a new town office, we've gotta have an electronic message board out front.
Those are Highgate, Swanton, I see
No,
them all the time,
they're great.
Yeah, BFA. But
Just don't let Jen put any numbers on it.
So do you wanna meet at
I'll
like
do it for her.
3 or 4 o'clock next week?
Anytime you wanna write me a check, yeah.
it's gotta be fine.
Pardon?
I know.
See Jen grow.
yeah, we gotta be careful here, like on your Article 9, when it's the first step to clear up the bay. We've been working to clear up the bay for,
Well, this is just something
A
that
long
Alan
time.
had somebody draw up. That's,
I just kind of threw that together, just,
right.
you
I
know,
would
it's
just
not,
put another step or something.
we tried to just come up with the schedule so we could come down and do stuff like this together.
like
Like, what does a
numbers,
mailing look like? We should come up with that as a board.
number 7 I would change a little bit too. You know, I wouldn't put that number, I would maybe just say modernize and will last many years.
I wouldn't make number 10 number 10, I'd make that the number 1 and put it in bigger lettering.
I would put it bigger lettering, yeah, but I kinda, like Brendan's idea of reaching out to the younger voter and that, if you remember David Letterman always did the top 10 on different things.
Yeah, but he's old now too.
He is, but he still read them, so, I mean, we tried just throwing something together that would be fun. We can work on the facts or whatever, and the wording, it's just an example to get everybody's mind thinking.
Yeah, so the same
Why don't we
poster.
Why don't we put a flyer in a messenger? That works. I mean, that gets right to people's houses.
An insert?
Yeah, that could be great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
see,
get
I didn't have
prices on
that.
that.
That's a good, we could add that, get a cost on it.
Anything from an
Michael,
old
do you
guy.
think you can get us a discount as a messenger for an insert?
I'm not touching that.
It's like,
No,
no,
some business, you might get a commission.
no, definitely not. Yeah,
Yeah,
not
so
in
I'd say we put
advertising.
one of these, put them in the messenger.
That'd be great. Oh, we won't, yeah, I think if we could meet next week around like 5.
So what do you wanna do?
I'm willing to meet.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah,
Monday?
We don't need,
Hour?
we don't want a warned meeting. No, Monday I
No.
can't do it.
We're gonna have to warn it, but we all show up.
Yep, well,
Okay, next
All right, so you guys tell me how it went.
Wednesday?
Monday,
I don't
Wednesday,
care.
Friday, I got
Yeah, so
afternoons off.
Fridays are not usually great, but Wednesday,
Wednesday,
have
Stan?
Wednesday?
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. might
Let's
have-
do it on Wednesday then.
Okay, the
What time?
30th?
No,
Wednesday.
you have an off, you said you had a job on Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
I have a job.
No, I don't know, you're free?
He said those are better for him.
Those
All right.
Okay,
Yeah.
what time?
Wait, if you go to Wednesday, I have to be out of here. I have a RPC meeting Wednesday night.
What? Oh, no, we're talking the
We're
afternoon.
not supposed to be
Oh, the
there.
afternoon, that's fine.
If I could, yeah, I'll just schedule somebody in my office to make it work since it's.
So what time are you guys talking about though? Like 4?
Sure.
No, what
You
time
can
you?
make it as early as like 3:30 if you want, because I could be here by then.
Does that work for you?
I have 1 to 5. That's
Okay.
Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays.
3:30?
Wednesday,
I'll make it work, yeah.
the 30th?
Yep.
Okay.
Good deal. Yeah,
Okay, so what time again?
3:30.
3:30,
Somebody's
Wednesday.
Wednesday,
Say the 29th.
30th of January, right?
Wait, can you believe it? It was next Friday, the 1st of February already?
They shouldn't be on that. I'm
Love
sorry,
it.
what?
You said three, on this next meeting is the January 29th.
3.
Huh?
We're talking about Wednesday,
Yep,
and that's the 30th, isn't it?
excuse me,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the 30th,
3:30.
3:30, here.
Be here with bells on.
And, you know, we should be done in an hour and a half or so, so
Even, I don't,
not even that long.
I'll try to get something together to at least have a basis. So we can.
Jen, can you, email those folks, those talking points you drafted for me?
Email who?
The
Oh,
select board.
Everybody, yeah. You know, the other day I had, I jotted down a whole bunch of things, and I asked Jen just type it up, so she has that on her computer, so we can.
Be happy to.
All right, so I don't think there's any other business.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
all right, we're just waiting for you, brother. All right, anybody opposed? Unanimously approved.